In 1991, The Beauty and the Beast enchanted kids and adults alike, becoming the first animated movie nominated for Best Picture, going toe-to-toe with the masterpiece The Silence of the Lambs, which is another phenomenon in itself, and we'll chat about that on another day. When it comes to The Beauty and the Beast, it was like nothing the world has ever seen before, skyrocketing Disney into the animated juggernaut it is today. How was it able to accomplish so much? What truly makes it a phenomenon? To really understand this phenomenon, we're going to have to travel back to 1991. That means The Lion King, Frozen, and Encanto are all Thanos snapped out of existence. Before Beauty and the Beast was made, the Disney princess plot was simple. It's love at first sight for the prince and the princess. Whether that be from afar, a dance, or a dream. These two fall for one another very quickly. I mean, for goodness sakes, there's literally a song in the Broadway version of Cinderella about how they've met 10 minutes ago. Oh no, someone wants to come in and rain on their parade. Whether it's a stepmother, a sea witch, or a demon sorceress, they're always looming in the background, plotting and scheming to ruin this poor girl's life. In the end, good stops evil and everyone gets a happy ending. Well, except for the villain who meets a very brutal demise. The Beauty and the Beast is different because it broke the Disney princess plot altogether. There's still a princess, a prince, and a villain, but the way the story navigates through these characters is very different. When we're first introduced to our princess, we get this clever contrast between her name, meaning beauty, and her reputation. To the townsfolk, she's beautiful on the outside, but an oddball on the inside. They sing she's nothing like the rest of us. That could be a subtle nod to the audience that Belle is going to be a lot different than the other princesses. When it comes to her personality, she's the exact opposite of the previous protagonist. Belle is intelligent, spending most of her time reading, heading to the bookshop to get a new book almost every day. She has a strong sense of self, willing to speak her mind when need be. When Gaston gets all up in her face, she knows how to stand her ground. A true Elizabeth Bennet type of character. This is really random, but can I just add how insightful she is? This girl has her nose stuck in a book and easily avoids a jump rope and some running water. If that was me, I surely would have tripped on my own shoelace. Although Belle's personality is a bit different from the others, she still brings the same type of innocence. Whether that be from Paige O'Hara's voice that has that same youthy tone that Jodie Benson had in The Little Mermaid, or it could be the fact that for most of the movie, Belle wears a blue dress, like Cinderella and sometimes Aurora, making Belle have this perfect balance between new and old Disney ideals. There are plenty of parallels between Gaston and the Beast. When both are introduced, they emerge from the shadows into the light, and both wear red. The importance of these two factors is both are common Disney villain tropes. Captain Hook, Jafar, and Mother Gothel all wear red, whereas Scar, Lady Tremaine, and Ursula are all found mostly lurking in the shadows. For the Beast and Gaston to both be wearing red and resign in the shadows makes both of them feel more sinister, showcasing the subtle conflict about who the monster really is. Is it the charismatic Gaston, whose personality is similar to the other princes that came before, or is it the hot-headed Beast, whose personality aligns more with the villains? As the story progresses, we see what type of men they are. The Beast may look like a monster on the outside, but he's kind and gentle when feeding the birds, and refusing to fight when he's challenged later. A very striking difference from the monster that almost ripped apart wolves earlier on. Gaston may look like a gentleman on the outside, but he's kind of a big fat jerk. His lust for Belle goes to a point of obsession, coming up with a master plan to blackmail her to marry him, or he'll throw her father in a mental institution. You know who he reminds me of? Mr. Wickham. Wait. If Belle is like Elizabeth Bennet, and Gaston is like Mr. Wickham, and the Beast is kind of similar to Mr. Darcy, is the Beauty and the Beast just a retelling of Pride and Prejudice? The plot may have changed the game for Disney princess movies, but it's not quite the reason it was nominated for Best Picture. The animation is what sets it apart. Yeah, no duh. One could argue that this is one of the greatest animated works of all time, just by the amount of details that it adds in every single frame. What makes it even more impressive is that each character has a complex design, even in the simplest characters like Mrs. Potts and Lumiere. Within these complex designs, there lies a lot of different parts to move. From just this one motion of the Beast asking Belle to dinner, we see his slow descent into rage by how he holds his cloak in his hands. He goes from a poised gentleman to wanting to rip his cloak in half, to even the small details of his chin fur moving and the flick of his tail, and the hair on his back prickling. That's only in 2 seconds of animation. On top of that, Lumiere's flames are swaying and Cogsworth begins to start speaking. All this detail in one camera shot. We learn so much about the Beast's personality in just this one movement. Even when we look at simplistic characters like Mrs. Potts, there is so much expression in her movements. And she's only a teapot. This movie keeps hitting you with detail after detail, making it hard to look away because you feel you may miss something. It only gets more enchanting when we get to the musical numbers. The timing of the animation goes perfectly with the song. Like in the song Tale as Old as Time, Belle sets her head on the Beast, and his expression is perfectly timed with Mrs. Potts saying Tale as Old as Time. Every time I watch Be Our Guest, I get moved to tears by just the brilliance of both the song and the animation. I could go on and on about the brilliance of the animation, but the point is, the animators were able to create an illusion of life. This would be a good time for me to point out that music plays a great deal in this movie's success as well. As much as I would love to tell you about the rich details of the music, I cannot. I'm not that well versed in the study of music theory, but I do know of 2 wonderful videos that give a great deal of information about the music of the Disney Renaissance. I'll put them in the card above. What makes this even crazier is that the budget for this movie was only $25 million. Compared to the other Renaissance films, Beauty and the Beast is tied for the lowest budget. If you were wondering, the others were Aladdin and The Rescuers Down Under. The highest budgets went to The Hunchback of Notre Dame with $100 million and Tarzan with $140 million. With a budget like that, this movie was still able to be nominated for 6 Academy Awards, 3 of them for music, 1 of them for its sound, and 1 Best Picture. There's only one more thing that tied the movie together, that being the cast. Each one of these actors perfectly embodies their character. If I'm gonna be honest, in animated movies today, that's a rarity. You may get 1 or 2 actors that can do this really well. One example that comes to mind is Kristen Bell, whose character works really well with her voice, but other actors' performances kind of fall flat. In 1991, this was before the time casting directors were looking to elevate an animated work by signing big-named actors. Instead, they signed people who fit the role. When looking at the cast of characters, most of them come from theater, which I truly think helps them navigate the emotional tones of their character's voice. In theater, not everyone can see your facial expressions, so you have to make both your body language bigger and your voice more expressive so that people understand what's going on even in the back. A good example is the legendary Angela Lansbury. When she sings her verse in Be Our Guest, she sounds so bubbly and lively, while in Tale as Old as Time, her voice sounds more like a lullaby. In both songs, you can feel her presence and it elevates her character as Mrs. Potts. Angela isn't the only one who has this sort of presence. Robbie Benson brings this gritty, cold voice to the Beast. As the movie goes on, it starts to get warmer and lighter. These actors aren't just reading words on paper, they're truly feeling it, making the animators' jobs a lot easier because of how much personality is jammed into every word. So if the 1991 version of this movie was a phenomenon, why didn't the reboot do as well? For me to answer that question specifically, I would have to watch each movie side by side and give you my honest answer. And this video is getting kinda long at this point, so I'll save it for another day. The short answer is, it tried to be just as grand as its predecessor, that it got caught under the original shadow. So instead of making reboot after reboot, we should cherish the classics for what they are, because they truly are magical. I'm sure there's other aspects of the film that I missed, so feel free to let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, here's a playlist of all things Disney. I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time.